Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey to College Made Easy, where we hear from experts who are going to help us cut through the complexity, eliminate the stress, and set your child up for success. I am Keough, a college financial planning consultant. I work with families, helping them cut through the somewhat crazy world of financial aid so that they can realize discounts and make smart buying decisions. I am very happy to be here today with Naomi Aldort. Naomi is the author of her best-selling book, Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, that has been translated into 19 languages. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you, Peg. I appreciate being here with you.
Very much. I'm very happy to have you here. So why don't we kick it off by taking a couple minutes for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what sort of impact you're making in the world and in this space that we're talking about.
Well, I write advice column. I've been working for 25 years internationally. I speak all over the world: Europe, Australia, Canada, America, soon possibly South America. My book is in 19 languages, like you said, and people call me from all over the world. I give sessions via Skype or Zoom, just like this, and also families sometimes come all the way here or invite me to their home for private workshops. I also do workshops for groups, either through the screen, long distance, or me traveling if it's not too difficult or there are few events. My work is really all the way from pregnancy through adulthood. I work even with grandparents. I work with marriages, with the whole family, all the way from the beginning. So I think our subject today will be spreading a little bigger than or other than just the financial issues of getting into the college, but whether to get into college, how to decide which, what's the best, and how to get kids to be confident and ready for college, starting at infancy. I mean, today I will not be talking about starting in infancy, maybe a little bit, depending on time. But really, what I teach is general all the way from the beginning, how to raise children who are confident, who are rooted in themselves, who are responsible, but from their own free will, not because of, I take the struggle out of parenting. Instead of controlling, trying to get them to do certain things the way we think, how to connect with them to understand their direction and nurture that so that it flows. So they want to do, they want to behave well, they want to study, do whatever they're doing, because we are connecting with them and keeping them authentically connected to themselves.
So can you elaborate on what you're just saying for this age group that this series is kind of targeted to, kind of high school age kids? I'm sure you work with families that come to you with high school age kids. So how do you help them and support them in this journey in that age group?
Yeah, well, I help parents to, first of all, work less and trust more, because today's parents especially are very anxious. And then the kids are anxious as a result of it, because they have the sense of having to accomplish all these things in order to succeed, almost like joining a certain competition. And what I like to help parents do is to really elevate the fire under the foot of the kids' own decision making and reduce the fire under their own. So it's a balance act. Teenagers go through difficult time. It's not easy to be a teenager. But if we keep them connected to themselves, then and let them make their decision, then we can be more relaxed about it, because we know that the kid knows best what's right for them. And if we, maybe I'll talk later about all through childhood, make sure that they are really connected to themselves, then it's easier for them to follow their own passion. But they need to feel free. They need to feel that they're going to college because they want to, or whatever else they're doing. So the goal is not looking good on the outside, but feeling good on the inside. And when that's true for the kid, it's true for the parent. Because when we feel good on the inside, or when the teenager or young student feels good on the inside, then we parents have a sigh of relief. We know they're doing well. And colleges and deans of colleges are eager for applicants who are motivated, honestly, from the inside, who are self-directed and know what they want. And they're less excited about everybody just go to college because it's expected of them. It's more about, be with the kid to ask them, what is most exciting for you to study or to become? What are you passionate about? And to notice, and we have many years to notice, where are they most creative, and nurture that direction, so that when it comes to deciding college or some other ways of learning, that they're already knowing where they're going, or if they're at the stage where they just want to go to college to be exposed to new things, that they're excited about it. They have some inclinations, they have maybe a college they're especially interested in, and they're following their authentic passion, whether it's college or not. And there are lots of other learning ways other than college. So I'm definitely not attached that it has to be college. They're very
absolutely.
And happy young people who find, who apprentice, who start their own business and then go to college or learn in some other ways. There's online ways, there's self-learning. So there are lots and lots of ways. And a lot of my clients, a good percentage of them, are homeschoolers or kids who go to some alternative schools that are more free. So this may be a little more new to someone whose kids just go through the regular school, but a lot of my clients do too. I'm not into dogma. I think it's all important. But the thing is to relax a little and to follow the child and nurture what they're passionate about and go on their path of exploration. If they want to study a certain thing or they love something, like how could we support them in getting more of that, rather than saying, you have to go to college after high school as a path that is carved for you in advance. Have it be something the kid is eager to do.
So why do you think this dynamic exists, like that? Because it would be so much easier for parents to do what you're describing and just kind of let the child, not completely lead the dance if they're going down roads. There's guidance, that's what parenting is. But why do you think that, in your opinion, that this is happening and parents are actually making it harder on themselves and then behaving in a way that maybe is not good for their kids? And that's not their intention, of course, right?
Yeah, but it's not their intention, it's not their fault. A lot of it has to do with the culture that's very, very competitive now, the way the schools are run. And again, I don't blame the teachers either. They're inside a system that seems to require that. So, when you look at history, societies always go through trends, and it's always a puzzle how a thought process, just like individual person can be caught in a thought process and its emotions, that a whole culture can be caught in a thought process, including anxieties. And so parents innocently, of course, they want the best for their kids. They think the only way is they must have good grades in high school if they go to school, or whatever, good proof of good learning and success, and so that they're accepted to the best colleges, et cetera, et cetera. And it's understandable, but it gets in the way of seeing what actually is going on for the child, and of allowing the teenager to find their own path and to feel connected with their parents, to have their support and their engagement in what they're interested in, not in what the parent is interested for them, which gets them, the kids, into anxiety. It's unfortunate that today the rate of teen suicide has gone higher, and that basically all teen suicide or college suicide is of the best students. It always would say, we don't know why it happened. She was such a good student. He had so many friends. Everybody loved them so much. But the thing is, if the kid feels that they have to, because they go for the praise and the prizes, and they think they have to gain all this kudos, and the parents are expecting it too, then as you get closer to the end of high school, the anxiety can rise because, can I keep up with this? When I'm in real society, it gets scary. Or they have the courage to continue and do as expected and go to college, and the college is too much. Or looking at, gee, I have to excel in college, and I can't, the professors today in colleges say that they have the most anxious generation of students, that they're afraid to give them less than an A because the kid is going to have a nervous breakdown at best. So that's very, very important, that this race to the top, that I encourage parents to calm down about it. And one of my recent songs is, please raise ordinary people.
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
Raise ordinary people.
Nice.
Because if parents, their ego is attached, and that's not a judgment either. We all have egos and it's natural. But when we get attached to my child should shine, and my child should always, have what they need and excel and be the best, then we're getting them into this huge anxiety of pleasing us, of living up to expectations. And praise and prizes and grades are all the same thing, where the kid is evaluated externally, and that gets them into that anxiety. Can I get the good grade? Can I be told that I was really good up on stage playing my piano sonata, or doing my sports? Did I shine? And if they don't shine, they go into anxiety and depression, and we have an epidemic of both anxiety and depression. And yeah, it connects to a lot of other things. This is not the only thing, but this is huge. So if we want kids who are rooted in themselves, we have to let go to a lot of degree and trust them, because success comes with doing what one is passionate about. And the competitive model is a model of the ego. It's not a model of an emotional freedom, of really being authentic with oneself, because it looks for the approval out there. So it creates stress, dissatisfaction, anxiety, and depression. And that's the real bottom line of it, is as long as we teach them to seek approval externally, grades, praise, prizes. And I have on my website 4 articles about why not to praise, a set of 3 called The Price of Praise, and one by itself called Getting Out of the Way, that can help parents with this particular, with what I'm saying now. Well, how do I guide and be a leader? And I always say parents should be leaders, and yet get out of the way enough to allow the child to discover themselves and to not rely on approval from others. The seeking approval about grades and success also make the kids seek approval socially, and fall for peer pressure and the drugs and whatever the sin that we're so afraid that they would fall for. What we need to do is make sure that they are seeking their own approval, and not the external approval that is grades and praise and all these evaluations that are external.
Right. So do you feel like, because with my families, I mostly work with the parents and I meet the kids some of the time, but I'd say at least 15%, 20% of my parents will share with me that one of their kids, it might not be the one who's in high school, is having issues with anxiety and depression. So do you think that this is something that starts when they're much younger? and
Yes,
and it just gets worse. So by the time they're in high school, and then all these kind of real world, now you're going to leave home, kind of, still
right.
be still be
Yeah,
supported by your parents if you end up going to college. It just makes it even
yeah,
more real, and it's becoming this huge problem in this
yeah.
country.
And the schools aren't helping, obviously, because they grade and praise and tell, who is valedictorian and all, give names to better and winners. It's very competitive. But I think if we do from the beginning, and yes, that goes to, again, I couldn't talk about it thoroughly today because we have so much else to cover, but as children, I teach parents not to praise, to encourage in variety of ways that are not evaluation, not praise, but opportunity and unconditional love.
So can
So,
you give an example, like just one example of this would be praise and this would be what you're talking about?
well, it starts with don't do it at all. So your child, you're 4 years old, drew a picture. Don't say, oh, what a beautiful picture, because they may actually not draw ever again, because it has happened with a very talented, in a workshop of mine, somebody raised their hand when I spoke about this subject and said apparently he had a kid who was a genius in art, and at age 4 was drawing accurate horses. And
Wow.
the parents went like crazy about it. The kids got scared. I can't
Yeah.
do again what would please them. He never drew again.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
lost the whole thing. And that happens with young music kids. You see YouTube is full of all these child prodigies playing all this thing that we're teaching them, and they can do so well. Once in a while, they're actually very, very talented. But even when they're very talented, we need them to be free to learn it. So if a child brings me, you asked for an example, what to do, a picture, and says, Mom, look, I drew this picture, then I would say, did you have a good time? Do you enjoy drawing? I connect them to themselves right away. That the picture is not about achieving a goal, pleasing me, or make it look good or become a Picasso. It's about their enjoyment of doing the art. Would you like to do some more? I mean, did you enjoy yourself? So, and parents do it. I have a story I tell a lot about this client who became very insecure adult. And when talking to him, it turned out when he was a child, and the first time when he was like, he says 2 years old or so, and he went down the slide, he contemplated a long time which way to go, ended up with his feet first and on his belly because he was scared. And when he got down, his parents did such a cheerleading operation. Yeah, you made it, that he just became convinced that something must be really wrong with him. And I'm sure they did it in other arenas. So it kept being fed like something must be wrong with me because I didn't think I did something unique. So all the good boy, good girl, good job, all these things I teach to get out of the way, because we treat young children as if there's some lab specimen that has to be evaluated on everybody all the time. And we don't do this to adults. It's actually not respectful. You don't wash the dishes and your friend comes over and say, wow, you wash so fast and so clean, good girl, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? If we did that to an adult, we'll get probably some kind of a slap, like shut up, or actual slap by some people. I mean, it's not right to do it to children. But when we do it to them again and again and again and evaluate what they do and comment, sometimes even just a child doing what they're doing, they say, oh, I see you're doing, like in the book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. They don't go far enough. They say, do a descriptive praise. You don't do that to adults either. You don't come and say, oh, I see you're washing dishes and they're very, very clean on the other side where you took, that's descriptive praise. It's almost as damaging. It's like, leave them alone. They're doing it for themselves. Say, and if they do something for you, you don't need to praise and evaluate. You can say thank you.
So you were saying, we have grades and all those things, and it's true. So
Right.
that's not going to change, right? So, I know some kids end up, homeschooling or in alternative schools where they
Right.
handle education differently, and that's great. The lion's share of kids are probably going to still end up in that arena. I mean, and I have
So
two
good.
that, yeah.
And,
So,
and
so
when,
how do we? I
so
want to
when
get
they,
your feedback
yes.
on how in the framework that we have, like I raised two kids that are 26, and I constantly told them, block out all the noise, just do your best. And if your best is a B minus because math isn't your thing, I'm going to praise you. Whereas another kid who got an A minus, it's like you slack because that's your
Right.
thing.
So I teach not to praise at all. But what I teach is before they go to school, get them so rooted in themselves by not praising them, but connecting and praising who they are, not what they're doing. So I love you. You are an awesome person. I'm so grateful you are in my life, exactly when they fail in something. That's the thing. But then when they go to school, I tell them in advance, you don't need the best grades. I love you, how you are. You don't need to be the best or anything. Study, and I tell them, especially in high school, because the early grades, they're playing a lot. It's all fun. They usually love it. But when they get into middle school, high school, and they start getting anxious on the school side, I try to release that anxiety by telling them, yeah, I know your teacher tells you to get good grades. I want you to know that you are fine with me and that you don't need a good grade to please me. Do what you like. So get the good grades because you have passion in the subjects that you're passionate about. And the other, make the effort to have passing grades in something that you can't stand and you're not interested in, because you need those grades to pass and to continue in your life. You don't want it to be an obstacle where you have failing grades. So I just tell them, let's be honest about it. You're not going to like every class. So you're going to shine in some classes because you love it, because you're passionate, because that's your subject, right? And then there'll be this other class like grammar or chemistry or whatever somebody's not interested in. Let me know how I can support you so you have a passing grade. If you need a helping teacher, if you need me to do some homework with you. But most of the time, I would try to stay out of the way and to just release the pressure that they must have good grades or the praise of the teacher, and to let them know that who they are is already the human being that's worth everything.
So how do you handle that with parents that love their kids dearly, but are sitting there saying, what? They don't have to do well in that class, but the colleges want that, that sort of, and it's coming from a good place. So because I'm sure you do talking with the parents too, right? Yeah. So how do you handle that with parents? Or what do you suggest for them?
I have to say most parents that call me already read my book, listened to a lot of my interviews and speaking, took my workshops. So usually they are already beyond that.
Okay.
They're already relaxed into trusting their children. But I have an amazing level of trust in children. And when parents actually trust their children and let them be and let them develop their passion and study what they really like, the children thrive and are emotionally well. And so to me, the emotional success is where it's at. Because internal joy and satisfaction and the celebration of being oneself and of life, that's, a state of gratitude. That's what's a lot more important. That's my focus with the child. Are they grateful? Are they celebrating life? Are they happy with who they are? Are they going home and thinking, because if you strive for all the best grades and if you don't always make it or it's very hard for you, you end up thinking, gee, I'm not so smart. I'm failing. I'm disappointing my mother. And you don't want them to ever get there. So that's my goal and when I teach parents that, they want that. This is not hard to sway them away for going for the good grades, because as soon as they learn that going for the good grades means going for the low self-grade for a lot of them. The only problem is that the kids who actually succeed to get the good grades, they're in the greatest danger.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see them happy getting the good grades. They're happy to please us and to impress. They're not necessarily happy and passionate about the subjects they're learning. Some of it probably, which they would have anyway. And that's where I really worry. I get sometimes families with teenagers who go to school and they're so good at high school, they love it, they thrive. They go to college and that's when they start having the emotional breakdowns, or sometimes after college. Sometimes we don't recognize it because the kid looks happy. But is it happy for the right reason? Or is it happy to please others and not being rooted really in oneself?
Right.
I'm not saying it can never happen that they're happy both to do the good grades and they're also passionate about every single subject that's taught in high school or in college, but it's not common. Yeah, there's people here and there who are just the process of learning ignites them no matter what it is, and they just love doing that. But for the most part, there is a price to pay. So when parents realize that, and I talk to the teenager and the parent together often, and we figure it out together. The teenager gets to talk too. It's not a problem to convince them that the goal of the high grade really gets in the way of the goal of the child's mental well-being, confident, being rooted in themselves, and being clear of what their passion is. Because a lot of teenagers get confused. They say at the end of high school they don't know what their passion is because they got so hooked into lots of things that weren't their passion, they're not sure anymore. And it could be none of the stuff they learned in high school is their thing, and they didn't have the time because of being busy getting good grades, didn't have the time to find their passion to do other things.
Yeah, so I find too, sometimes there's a little bit of choreographing where it's like, well, you do these things because this is what's going to look good to get in college and this kind of thing. And it's, you really are, the person isn't really living their life from their heart. They're just kind of following and doing what the right things or what they should do, kind of thing.
And what we want for them, all of it, right? We want them to be contributors rather than wanting to impress. If like the focus is so on oneself, doing the right thing, then we become anxious people and depressed people. When the focus is I'm all right with me and my parents are all right with me no matter what I am, then the focus as they mature become on contributing, on what can I give to society, which is much healthier than being focused on oneself. And also, we want them to succeed in order to be happy. So I always say, why not teach happiness? Success will be natural for a happy person. So if we teach and the praise and the prizes and all this thing gets in the way of the happiness because it gets into the stress and the anxiety to please other people. We need not please other people. We need to become authentically who we are and flourish as the person that we are. So as parents, the external success really can stifle the soul. It may satisfy external factors, look good, or the parent, idea of what success is. And then we're surprised when we see the most successful people. It's not just in high school. We see very successful comedians and actors, etc. Committing suicide. Like, why? They're so successful. Well, that's the reason. It's very hard to constantly satisfy an image. You need to be true to yourself. And the way to be true to yourself, it starts in babyhood.
Yeah.
And when you are happy, the external success is meaningless and it comes naturally.
Well, and the thing about external success that's tricky is we all have so little control over a lot of that stuff. So the stuff you're saying to get to, you have control over. So then you have that peace of mind and that centeredness throughout your life, because it's not something that you're expecting a teacher to give a grade or somebody to like your painting, or that's not where it's rooted from. So, we're talking.
The other thing, success does not guarantee happiness. Happiness guarantee happiness and most of the time success. And if it's not success by the measurements that we think, the doctor and the lawyer and all that, but the person chooses a simpler a country life or whatever they're choosing, if they're happy, that's all we really care about. We
Yeah,
know
that's
that.
what I was going to ask you. If you were going to like list bullets of what success is for a young person, well, for anybody really, from
Yes.
what you're saying.
Well, that's why I said success is internal joy and satisfaction, gratitude, celebrating of life, being whole and fine with oneself, which we're all working on because we didn't get that because of all the other forces of the more regular way of schooling and parenting. And we're working on regaining our own confidence. So many parents, I work with them on themselves, not on the kid.
Yeah, yeah.
They are concerned what the neighbors would say, what the in-laws would say. I have to relax them. It's like, just let your child be who they are, and you be also who you are. So success is really happiness. It's joy. It's contributing to others. It's being so free of the need to say I'm all right because I know I'm all right, that I can easily focus on giving, on what can I add to this life? What can I study that can make a difference for the next generation or for my kids? Or it doesn't have to be anything altruistic, you know? Maybe I can be the next farmer who give my community the real organic healthy food, or the shoemaker that keeps my community walking in shoes that are mended rather than constantly buying new ones that ruin our planet with all this shopping. I mean, there's a lot of things to do. You don't have to just be, you know, some famous pianist or dancer or sports or lawyer.
Doctor or lawyer. Yeah, yeah.
All these images. So prioritize the human flourishing over an external forum like, you know, success or economic growth. It's not about money either.
Yeah, yeah.
Value of autonomy, of freedom and joy is what I measure success with. If my young student kid is happy, that's success.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mean happy sitting at home doing nothing, because that's not happy. I'm not saying they can't go through a period of doing nothing and searching themselves, but I'm saying that a happy person long term is interested in things.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Curiosity. They have curiosity. Yeah.
Curious, they want to contribute, they want to do something. So success doesn't cause happiness, but happiness causes success on any level. And
yeah, because you've got fertile ground to do all these wonderful things that are in you. If you're not on fertile ground, eventually what's growing.
Fertile ground, that's it. I love that.
Yeah. Well, this is I think this is very, very powerful. So what would be, you know, because probably a lot of people that are watching this have middle, high school kids. So with your expertise, what would be your key things you would tell them? They're watching this, they're saying, wow, this is powerful, this stuff's landing, it's resonating, I might not be doing all of this. What advice would you give them to, not to improve, because I'm not trying to say they're bad, but to maybe change the dynamic, you know, for themselves and for their kids, as you're saying?
Yeah, I just want to throw in some examples so parents can feel confident. A lot of kids who kind of do it in their own way sometimes don't go to college right after high school, but have a year or two of just joining community. And then they say, I want to go to college, and it's their own thing. Sometimes they need time. So I see that happening. Then I see unschoolers or homeschoolers very fast learning the whole high school material and doing the GED or the SAT tests, even math and everything without much problems. I think we're running out of time, or I would have told you in more details about my own sons and some other clients that and how they do that. So, and some who don't have grades from anything ask for an interview with the dean. And I just keep hearing from deans how impressed they are with these kids who say, I went to the democratic school or I homeschooled, I don't have grades, but I'm passionate about biology, and your professor in your school of biology, that's the one I love the most. I already read his books and listened to some videos, and I'm passionate about studying with it. And and they come for a half an hour interview. It ends up an hour and a half, and the dean is just so impressed because the kid is so mature, so self-related, and knowing what they want, and not just another piece of paper with the perfect grades and all the recommendations of the teacher that the dean read before. They're all the same, and they're not as impressive. It's like, okay, another good kid who did what he's told. But here I have a kid who think for themselves. But I want to read you a quote from because it does take courage. I really have such high appreciation for parents, because parenting today is probably the most difficult it ever was. Maybe it always feels this way, but with gadgets as competitors, social media, all kind of fears that happen, and this race to the top, it's not easy. And Eric Fromm, who wrote the book The Art of Love, probably most people know it, he wrote, few parents have the courage and independence to care more for their children's happiness than for their success. And that, I think the way he said it is beautiful. So we need to ask ourselves if we are caught ourselves as parents in the seeking approval and prestige, all this professional success. Are we caught in impressing other people in how our people are turning out? So are we caught in this seeking approval? And therefore our children will be caught in the same net. And then what I do when parents call me for sessions, often, yes, many times it's advice about the kids, but very often the parents ending up working with me on themselves to release themselves from seeking approval or other emotional issues. And that's why my book is Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves. The best gift you can give to your children is be imperfect and work on yourself, and let them know that you work on yourself, and let them see your struggle. So they don't expect to be perfect. They feel safe to fail. Love them when they fail. Let them know it's all right. It doesn't change who they are and how much they're worthy and how much you love them. Exactly when they fail in their relationship with a friend or a brother, doesn't mean you let things happen and go wrong. A child hits their sibling, of course you stop it, you find a solution, but you don't get angry at the child who failed to stay peaceful because he is jealous to death, or because the little one keeps ruining everything of his. There is always a valid reason behind the child's behavior. And the same with the teenagers, who often have big issues with friends. And they come to the parents, my friends won't play with me, or this or that. Don't fix it for them. Don't give them the message that it has to be fixed because they can't handle it. Let them know it's all right. Would you like to be with me instead? Or what would you like to do instead? Would you like to go visit this other friend? Just show them that they can handle it and that they don't need approval that's external. Raise a child to look inside for direction, and then her path will be hers with mental health. And it really, really starts with babies. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. When the baby wants to be carried and held, not letting baby cry, but really responding to what they need, tells them how I feel inside is right. So the child comes down the slide and people ask me, so what should those parents have done instead of cheerleading? So, well, first of all, look at the child's face. They may be scared. That slide down may have been the terror that happened to them in the last 30 seconds. Look and see. And if they look scared, you say, wow, was that all right? Are you feeling fine? Resonate with what's going on for them. If they look happy, you can mirror their happiness. Just like I said about the picture. Oh, it looked like, did you enjoy yourself? Yeah. Okay. And then he tell you when he wants to do it again. Then they're real. And then there is, mental health is what's more important. So when the child chooses to be in my arms at 4 years old, when they're guests because they are feeling uncomfortable, and I go ahead and hold them or have someone be with them one-on-one, then they know, oh, mommy understands me. How I feel inside is right. Or they want to come and sleep with you. How I feel inside is right. Then they become independent, not dependent on sleeping with you or being held by you. The opposite. The more you respond to that emotional need, the more they learn to be independent, because they're saying to themselves, oh, how I feel inside is right. My mother is responding to it. My dad is responding to it. And then when
Right.
they go to school, they're not as attached to grades and praise anymore and prizes, because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
already are confident.
Well, I have tons of notes on my paper. I went through one page and another page. So this is fascinating and really powerful. I know that all the listeners know that the different speakers in the series are offering free gifts to try and solidify what they heard. And just to learn more and be further supportive. So Naomi, do you want to just take a minute to share what that is so that people understand and they'll be able to
Yes.
click on that?
The gift I chose is not related to age. And it's about that fine line between leadership and control. So it's a video in which I answer one long question about this fine line and how do we walk it so the kids are empowered to be themselves, but are not controlling us, not having power over us, but over themselves.
Okay.
It's a video. The questionnaire is, because it was done in Europe, is in Czech, but the translation is in English on that page, so they can read the question or not read it and just listen to the answer. The answer is me, and I don't speak Czech. It's in English.
Well, that sounds great. I actually want to watch that. So that sounds wonderful. Well, I can't thank you enough. Your insights are powerful. It's just so interesting to me, and I know everybody else who's listening. And I just want to thank you for all the work you're doing, all the impact you're having with families all over the world, and changing the world. It's just starting with that. What you're doing is just, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I so appreciate it with just the world that I live in and the people I try and support. And it's amazing. So I thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you, Peg. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm glad you're providing what you are providing for parents. And
yep, happy to do it. Okay, everybody. Well, have a great rest of the day. Take care.